What's up, hackers? Welcome to Saturday Hacker Day, and welcome to the Taggart Institute. My name is Taggart, and today we have some blue team stuff on tap for you. But before we do that, we're going to cover the week in cyber news, starting with something I'm trying really, really hard to feel sorry about, but it is a challenge for me personally, which is the DraftKings breach. So, account takeovers led to, I think the number that I saw was something around $300,000 so far of compromised funding, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. And yes, reports on social media were cropping up. The DraftKings users had been locked out of their accounts and their funds had been drained. And part of this is because two-factor authentication was not something that was common amongst accounts at DraftKings, but it also looked like I think we're still waiting to discover the whole story of the compromise, but it's likely that there was some sort of staff kind of compromise, right? Business email compromise, or vishing, the same sort of thing that got after Uber. Who knows? Maybe it's another lapsus. We don't know that for sure. But between this and FTX, it's a little. There's like a very specific kind of guy who had a very bad financial week, and I'm sorry that they're financially suffering, but I'm also sorry that they got suckered into those bad investment ideas. So more to come on the DraftKings breach, certainly. Speaking of breaches, this one went a little bit undercovered, and I want to talk about why. So it turns out that back in January of 2021, or no. This was late 2021. There was a breach that it turns out was much larger than originally reported. And this was about Twitter accounts. It originally seemed like it was mostly French accounts. Those are the ones that were reported in the breach. But it turned out, according to this report, that it was basically anybody who had an account with phone-based discoverability enabled. So you may want to check to see if you had those settings enabled if you have a Twitter account at this point. Now, there's kind of a twist to this story, and this is the reason I'm bringing it up, other than to alert those who may have been impacted. When this was re-reported by InfoSec luminary and also local anti-fascist hero Chad Loader, Twitter suspended his account. Now, Twitter has been going after a bunch of anti-fascist accounts and a bunch of folks who are complaining about transphobia and abuse from the alt-right in the United States. Chad was one of them. There are a few others as well. And I'll also say that this was kind of like my last straw, that seeing the way that they were treating these people who are actually trying to do something to prevent fascism from rising in the United States, that they were getting suspended rather than, the Nazis. I'm done. I'm done with the Bird site. I have an account there and I'll keep it there so that it doesn't get taken over, but you won't see me posting content on there. If you want to engage with me on social media, it's going to be on Mastodon, or join the Discord, because there's no ethical usage of that platform at this point. But back to the news aspect of it, you do want to check to make sure that you didn't have phone discoverability enabled, and it looks like the scale of this breach was something like more than 5 million phone numbers and email addresses. So much worse than initially reported. So something to check out. I'm going to have to remove the little bird from the social icons down there. Okay. Somehow, I really don't know how this is possible, but somehow we have yet another disastrous server update on domain controllers from Microsoft. I have been reporting on this for 3 weeks straight now. So in this case, an update to domain controllers involving the Local Security Authority Subsystem Service, better known as LSAS, seems to have changed a configuration as to how it is considering the I think it's the Privilege Authentic Authorization Certificate, or PAC. And the way that it changed it essentially is creating memory leaks or massive memory usage on domain controllers to the tune of, I've seen 20 gigabytes of memory usage for this single service, which really should not be floating anywhere near even a gigabyte of usage. So there's a memory leak somewhere, and it's causing domain controllers to crash, and crash in the worst possible way, because it is the service that enables authentication to the domain and the domain controller itself. So not a great service that you want crashing, and then of course you'll have to bring down the DC, bring it back up. So here's the deal. There is a workaround, according to the story by Bleeping Computer. There is a workaround, but more to the point, the recommended action by Microsoft is to not install November's updates on domain controllers. So this is after they messed up Kerberos with the incorrect encryption default and had to put out an out-of-bound patch for that. I am beginning to hear a lot of folks complain about the quality control of what is coming out of Microsoft for Windows. And I think there's reason to be concerned. This isn't the first time where we've had really botched patches for mission-critical infrastructure coming from Microsoft, which has the capability to do deep testing on this stuff before it rolls out the door. Why isn't this happening? One argument could be that this area for Microsoft is just no longer emphasized. It's no longer prioritized. Yeah, Cobra Style, you're right. There have been others, but there's been just an increased frequency recently. And I think it's reasonable to suspect that Windows is not getting prioritized by Microsoft, the corporation. They're not making their money there anymore. They're making their money in the cloud. And certainly when it comes to things like Active Directory and domain controllers by corollary, are what they would consider legacy technology. Active Directory itself hasn't had a new feature added to it in forever, right? And same thing with things like Hyper-V. Anything that keeps you on-prem, anything that keeps you local, they're going to deprioritize. So something to just be aware of. Obviously, if you haven't pushed the November updates to domain controllers, maybe hold off until this patch is fixed. And then good luck, I guess. Hopefully they'll get it right this time. Now, this one, there is nothing really that gets me more upset than targeting of kids, especially for malware, but also, ransomware, going after school districts, things like that. It's pretty disgusting behavior, which is why this story about a Roblox Chrome extension that has been backdoored to install malware and spy on users. Of course, Roblox is going to be used mostly by kids, some adult gamers, but mostly by kids, has impacted 200,000 players. So I wanted to call this one out. It's not particularly special. We know the deal with Chrome extension-based malware, but if you do have a Roblox player in your house, you may want to check their browser to see if something like this has been installed, just to be sure that they are clean, or any others. It's always a good idea to review what Chrome extensions you have installed, as well as service workers that have been installed, just to see what's going on there and make sure that you know and trust everything that has been installed in the browser. Because of the extension API and because of the service worker API, these bits of JavaScript have a lot more capability than you might think to gather information about you and then send it off without your knowledge. All right, that does it for the news section. Today, we're Splunking. we are continuing with our exploration of the TryHackMe SOC Level 1 learning path. And we did a little bit of defer last time. Today, we're going to go back into the SOC and do some SIEM work. Now, we've done a lot of Elastic on this stream, especially in the last few months. But it turns out that when you get into enterprise, when you get into larger organizations, you're not going to see that much Elastic. You'll see some, but if you look at the Gartner quadrants and things like that, Splunk is definitely the market leader when it comes to security, information, and event management or monitoring platforms. And the thing is, so Splunk is great, and I use it at work. But the thing with Splunk is that there's a lot of training that you can have if you're a Splunk customer, but there's not a whole lot of Splunk training you can find, good Splunk training that you can find if you're not. And so we're going to try to level that out a little bit today. Now, you can install Splunk on a home lab server. You can do that, and we'll eventually go through that process on this stream. But there are some limitations. I believe it's a, 500 megabyte log retention max. So it's pretty tiny, depending on what you're doing. There's some other limitations for it as well. It's worth exploring. So, but TryHackMe has a bunch of rooms that they've put together in the SOC Level 1 path. So we're going to use those as a reintroduction to Splunk. So we're going kind of full blue team here today. So let's see what this is all about. All right. So we're starting here in the Splunk Basics room, and I'm here in the SOC Level 1 path if you're interested in playing along. We've done quite a few of these already. Lots of folks in the chat. Good to see all of you. Hello, Killer. Ginge, always a pleasure. Matchstick Boy, just a guy. Thief of Always. OGs like Lasso and Orbital Gun up in the mix as well. So yeah, we're doing Splunk Basics, and the first thing that they do in Splunk Basics is they talk a little bit about, they want you to connect to the lab, so we'll fire up the machine. But they also have a good breakdown of the three major components of a Splunk architecture. And I actually think this is super important to go over, even if you're not a systems engineer, even if you're not responsible for building a Splunk deployment or deploying Splunk at all. If you're just a user, I think it's important to know the three components of a Splunk deployment because you interface with them differently and they can break in different ways. So you have the indexer, the search head, and the forwarder. I'm going to start with the forwarder, just like this group here does. So the forwarder, also known as the Splunk Universal Forwarder, is an agent that resides on all of your endpoints. Think of it very similarly to something like FileBeat or WinLogBeat or the Elastic Agent, if you're used to that, or Waza, if you're used to using the Waza agent. What they do is they just look at files and then send them off. So if you're talking about Windows event logs, they're looking at the EVTX files. If you're talking about Apache logs, they're looking in varlog, Apache 2, all of that. That is that you point them to specific locations, and you can configure different groups to look at different locations, pull those, ingest them, and then send them to the indexer. The indexer is where the data goes. And this is where the data goes from raw to parsed, right? And this is where the parsing rules that you've set up are in fact applied and normalized into field value pairs. This is where timestamps are set up. This is where also differences in timestamps can arise. The difference between when the event was generated, which is going to be its own field, versus when the event was ingested into Splunk, which is in fact the timestamp that Splunk is going to use by default, is the ingestion time, not the generation time. So just be aware of that you may be off by a couple of seconds. Well. Hello, Theo. Hello, Raiders. Good to see you all. Theo, how was your stream, friend? Why are ingestion times important? What a great question, Prax. Ingestion times are important because the first... Oh, cool, you're installing vSphere and Security Onion. We're kind of going the other direction with that. today with Splunk, so we're going a little bit more commercial. Is Security Onion good in the new versions? I haven't touched it in a while. I feel like I need to go back and revisit it because I've been kind of like Charlie Brown to Security Onion's football a number of times. I basically stopped playing with SO because it stopped working for me for my needs, and then I went and built my own thing with Elastic. But I'm interested to give it another go. Kieran, good to see you. So to answer Prax's question, why are ingestion times important? When you're going into an investigation in Splunk, the first thing that you really, really need to know is your time horizon. Or that's the term that I use. That's probably not the right term, but I think I pulled that from Minority Report. Anyway, but your time horizon is, for me, like, what are the ends of your event, your beginning and end? And once you have that, you want to zoom that in. But here's the thing. Where are you getting those start and end points? Are you getting it from an alert? How did it learn its time? Maybe it came from Splunk, but maybe it didn't. If you're using Splunk as an investigation source to an event or to an alert that came from elsewhere, you are going to have to deal with some time discrepancies there. And so understanding what the difference is between the ingestion time and the time generated for a log, if there is such a difference, is really important to understand what you need to be looking for and how you need to sort of like apply Kentucky windage to your time filtering so that you get to what you are looking for. All right. And then finally, the last part is the search head. And this is the part that you're largely going to be interacting with day to day in Splunk. This is where you actually enter queries. It's the thing that performs searches. So this is where the web application exists, is probably a better way of thinking about it. All right, so our machine is up. Let's go check it out. Theoretically, there are credentials? No credentials. Which component is used to collect data and send data over the Splunk instance? The forwarder. One thing I am noticing with a bunch of these SOC level 1 courses as I go through them is that they needed a little proofreading. In fact, there was an ELK one that I did recently where the question was asking you to filter out a certain field value, and what they actually meant was filter for that field value. Again, that kind of QA, super important if you want to have good training. Hey, Magic, I see your questions. The best place to get your answers is on our Discord. That's a little off topic for what we're doing today, so I don't feel like I'm going to answer those live on stream. Okay. Let's go check out Splunk. Can we log in? Is it up? Ooh. Is Splunk OS agnostic? It depends on the part that you're thinking about, Prax. The forwarder is definitely OS agnostic. You can toss that on anything. The indexer and the search head are definitely looking for Linux machines. So if you look up the Splunk Universal Forwarder, right, you can kind of see. Oh, every time. I actually do have a Splunk account. Let's see if they'll let me download the Universal Forwarder now that I've logged in. So here you go. Platform agnostic. It runs on Windows, Linux, macOS, FreeBSD, Solaris, and AIX. It is written in Python, so have fun with that. And also, Splunk extensions are written in Python, which is kind of cool. All right, so here we have Splunk, and when you first log in to Splunk, this is kind of what you will see. You'll have your applications over here, and as you can see, find more apps. That's what I was talking about with extensions. You can go check out Splunk Base to learn about other applications that you can install. We're not going to do that right now because it's a whole thing. Messages, settings. This is where you do a lot of your configuration for Splunk and anything that's ongoing in your search head. Search and reporting. This is where I live my day-to-day life in Splunk. It is the basic query prompt and then showing you the results of any of the queries that you are pulling in. In the Add Data tab, which option is used to collect data from files and ports? Woof, this thing is under-resourced. I really wish TryHackMe would stop doing this. Do I have experience with Splunk SOAR? Just a little bit. I haven't seen or played with everything that it can do with automated response. Honestly, pretty much every SOAR product that I've seen is essentially the same, just with branding. You know, it's here's some webhooks, go write stuff for it. And the problem is that every SOAR, so when you talk about automated response, for me, there's kind of like two flavors of automated response, which is the AR and SOAR. Wow, this thing is really slow. You have two flavors of automated response. Flavor one is automated response in terms of like hooking into your other tools like Jira or ServiceNow or whatever, so it like opens tickets for you and generates the correct alerts. Or when you close a case, because there are investigation tools inside of Splunk, like enterprise security, that you can use, and you know, hooking those into even like threat intel platforms or things like that, you can do that. That's kind of flavor one of automated response. Flavor two is actually doing something on the endpoint if there was an alert. You know what I mean? Like actually taking preventive or eradicating action or isolating action. And that is a little bit more of a rarefied area. And it's also an area that Splunk doesn't get into, mainly because they don't have an EDR, right? The universal forwarder is a one-way thing. It's not like you can, or you're not supposed to be able to run code on the endpoints with the universal forwarder. There were a couple of RCE vulnerabilities back in the day with the universal forwarder where you could theoretically do that, but that's not supposed to be how that works. All right, let's add some data here. Pardon me, I'm still a little bit under the weather, but I'm definitely recovering. Thank you for security orchestration automation response. So the question that the basic question that they're asking is, which option is used to collect data from files and ports? It's got to be forward, right? No? Was it upload? What are they after here? In the Add Data tab. Monitor? Why? Oh, files and ports. Okay. I see. Oh, on this instance. They really should have specified. Right, so monitor is like, they're looking for that instance. You don't have to add other sources, it's just from where this thing is actually installed. Okay. And now we're going to add some data. They've given us a JSON file, which I have already downloaded. So we'll add the data. And go to upload. What is happening? Like, why is this so slow? Got the new IP address. Maybe dubstep will come back. What is happening? I'm gonna kill my VPN connection and bring it back. See if that's somehow the problem. When this happens... Sometimes, it's because I have another computer in the house also connected to the VPN. I thought I disconnected my other machine. But just in case, my lovely wife has closed my laptop to make sure that that connection is not messing with this one. All right, so we're going to upload vpnlogs.json. All right, we've selected our source, set the source type. Now, because Splunk knows how to parse JSON, all these fields are already sorted. Hey, by the way, I'm sure some of you are wondering, no, Splunk does not have a dark mode. It has a dark mode for like the query window, but not for the actual interface. So it's real cool that way. All right, so we have our VPN logs as to what happened with the VPN here, built teardown. Maybe some fails in here. All right, this looks good. Input settings. What do they want us to do for this? Input settings, select the index where the logs will be dumped and host name to be associated with the logs. Done. So, are they showing us this? Okay, the host field value is fine. Index default, I kind of want to create a new index, right? If it's open source, it sure isn't. Yeah, Splunk just doesn't have this, this dark mode thing. Like, you can use stylus if you want to figure something out, I'm sure. Yeah, these are events. I think that's good. Boom. Good. Splunk is for the good guys, not the hackers. No, but consider that we live in basements and shun the light. So I think the truth about Splunk is that most of the time it's being used in horribly fluorescent lit offices. You know what I mean? Where you're not, you're already in trouble when it comes to light exposure. Except for those of us who have the luxury of working from home. My office is lit by basically the same ring light that is lighting me now. It's just that I put it on a different color temperature. This is a nice warm light. I have found, you know, as I begin my long, slow march to the grave, that if I hang out and look at a screen and the room is too dark, my eyes will start to hurt. So I do need to have some ambient light around as well. Kieran, I think the light panels we have are LED, but when I get into the reception area, the sun is out, my eyes struggle for a bit. Yeah, so one of the cooler things that I got to do in my education career was I got to oversee the installation of kind of smart building technologies. And one of the neater ones was the lighting system. So it was a Lutron system that ran. There was a 10-volt system, and then there was the standard 120-volt system, and they were LEDs. And the other cool thing was that for every classroom that we put them in, you had 2 banks, right? So if you think about a classroom, they kind of ran vertically up and down the classroom with the board being at the front of the room. And all of our classrooms had windows that were facing the outside. So what we did was we actually put light sensors, photo sensors, in the center of the 2 banks. And what happened was those sensors were keyed into the two banks that were set up as a lighting group. And what happened was, as the outside light got brighter, the lighting in the room got darker, and the lighting bank closer to the windows actually knew how to get dimmer, I should say, more than the one that was farther away. That was kind of a cool thing to do. And we had them all on timers as well. One thing that we did that I thought was kind of fun was we, rather than have class period bells, which are disruptive and also like really rough for audio sensitive folks like me. Right? I don't know if this is true for anybody else, but classroom bells, fire bells, things like that, they're just the worst, right? Really kick up the anxiety. And so what we did instead was, at the end of class periods, we did like a theater intermission thing where we dimmed the lights quickly 3 times, and that was the signal for class being over, rather than a bell. Okay. Do they want us to extract fields? I'm looking at this GIF to see what they want us to do here. This is terrible. They should just have a... Oh, you know what? We might have messed that up, but that's fine. Used to have to work out lux levels and contrast ratios for rooms. That's cool. All right, let's see what our data looks like. So we have 2,862 events. It's all extracted as JSON, though. We do have fields here, though, which is nice. If we show the raw... Yeah, I think this is good. I think we got the fields that we wanted. So you can see, when it's JSON, you can see the raw, or you can see it by syntax highlighting. And over here, you can see that some fields were already extracted pretty efficiently. I think this is done pretty well. Okay, and we'll do a quick tour. Was it 2,862? Yes, 2,862. Good. So, basic tour. When you're in the Splunk query, or in the search head, you have your query bar up here. This is the part that you can make dark mode. Which, let me do that just to show you. I forget where it is. User interface. No, never mind. This is going to be too weird and annoying. So we've got this query, and this is the basic Splunk query language stuff. You set up a field, an equal sign, and then whatever value you want. Now, it accepts wildcards like asterisks, and some will also take regular expressions. But this is just the tip of the iceberg for what you can do with Splunk, because this is an entire Turing complete functional programming language. So, for example, we're doing kind of this source here. We can get rid of this host. And this is also, we can do index equals VPN logs. And that, because they've been indexed now, should give us everything. Yep, same deal. So we get the same number of events. When you put in your query for Splunk, you always want to go big to little, because the filters are processed in order. And so you want to give Splunk the best chance it has in getting the data that you're after. And we have 2,162 items in here, which isn't so bad. Also, beware of your time window here. So right now we're looking for everything, but you also have some relative today, week to date, business week to date. And then you can do a date range or a date and time range, which are handy for doing a quick filtering. You can also filter quickly into a time. So notice the spike here. If I wanted to just look at this window, I can click and drag on this, and that'll filter down, and I click on zoom to selection, and I'm just looking at those. I can hit zoom out, and that'll take me back to my... I'll go back to all time. Right, and that'll take me back out to the full chart. So this is kind of, this is your basic spark line or, event count, right? But if we want to do something a little bit more interesting, for example, if we wanted to see action or activity per user, we can do this a couple ways. We can do, let's do with stats first. Count by username. It actually has it. It's auto-completing for us really nicely. I'll zoom this in a little bit so it's easier to see. All right, we'll run this. So what we get is a new table. Notice that it looks totally different. And also notice that we're in the statistics view as opposed to the events view. Now, we can go over to the events view, but the statistics view shows up because we're asking for a statistics report, basically, or a statistics result. We have a count, which we've asked for, and this is a field that is auto-generated. But we don't actually have it sorted. So what we can do from here is something like sort minus count, and that will do sort descending on the count value. All right, now we have this ordered. So we can see Simon had the most activity. Generally, we don't know what kind of activity it was. Now, this is nice to see, kind of a cumulative, but what if we wanted to see it over time? Well, we change that to a time chart. Guess what? We still have a table, but we also have a visualization. This should be, let's do an area chart. Yeah, thank you. And now we actually have a nice chronological view of what took place. This ability to go to visualization very quickly and cleanly is one of the things that I actually really, I hate to say it, but I really prefer in Splunk over Elk or Elastic. That particular flow in Elastic for me is very clunky. I like Elastic for a lot of stuff, but that particular thing is very clunky. Now, when you're working with a lot of data, you can specify that you only get the stats or viz back, and you don't get the raw events. To do that, you change it from verbose mode over to either smart or fast mode. Fast mode will just give you the stats, right? Notice that events are not there anymore because it didn't load all of that. It just got the data that we were looking for. And as you start using larger and larger data sets, that becomes more and more important, as does event sampling. So depending on what kind of a thing you're looking for, odds are you're going to have thousands or millions of results. And you don't have to look, just from a law of large numbers standpoint, you don't have to look at every single log in order to find the result that you're looking for. So this takes a little bit of finesse. You got to understand the shape of your data and understand the probability involved in what you're looking for. But you can sample your events so that you're taking every 10th, every 100th, every 1,000th, 10,000th, or whatever. You can even customize your event sampling. I'll tell you when I use this all the time is DNS data. I use this all the time when I'm looking at DNS data in Splunk because there's just too much. There's too much. My org actually does ingest and log DNS queries, right? It's super handy. We do a lot of cool stuff with it. But when we're looking at them raw, you can't look at all of them. There's far too many of them. And so we do 10,000, 1 to 10,000 or more sampling. Usually it's 1 to 10,000 sampling for DNS queries, and we still get hits, right? We still find the thing that we're looking for just because of the scale of DNS. So that's something to think about as well. These are the tools that you have available to you in Splunk quickly. All right. How many log events by the user Melina are captured? So we can answer that pretty easily. Notice that we have the fields over on the left-hand side. If we click on them, it'll give us the top 10 values. Melina happens to be one of them. So we can just click on it and it'll be added to our search. See that? I'll knock off the time chart because we don't need that right now. But if I didn't have that, I could have just manually put in username equals Melina and gotten that. So we have 60 events. What is the name associated with IP address 107.14.182.38? So for this, we're going to use the source IP field, right? Source IP equals. Uh-oh. Was that the wrong field name? Capital S. Source IP equals. Got him. Okay. So what is the username associated with it? We can do that by stats count. Well, okay, so actually, let's not do a stats count. Let's do a table. So right now we're looking at the full event, but we often don't need all of that data. So what do we actually want? Let's try a table with time, and then what do we have? Username. And let's also get action, just because we can. So this is going to give us a different looking table than this. The underscore time is the built-in timestamp field in Splunk. Okay. Now, also be aware that these may not be sorted by time. Now, these are in ascending order. The default for Splunk is descending time. So most recent first. The other quick way to do that is pipe rev, or reverse. Does the underscore before certain things denote a global variable? It's not, I wouldn't call it a global variable, Prax. I would call it a kind of built-in field. It's something that, just almost like the @ sign does in Elastic, it's something that the application is adding to your data. Yeah, you don't get a choice. It's going to add that to your data. If we go to events and expand this out, you can kind of see some of them. So underscore time is like the one that has that. And then source type. Ladies and gentlemen, Oh, Hazred is in the house. Hey, Al. Good to see you. Other than the part where I was on vacation, we do actually reliably do 2 streams a week. It's just not on Tuesdays or Thursdays, bud. But yeah. So, what was the name? It was Smith. What is the number of events that originated from all countries except France? So for that, we'll just filter out source country. With source country, we'll put that in there, but actually say bang equals France, which works fine. And that's 2814. How many VPN events were observed by the IP 103 by, again, from, not by, the IP 107.3.206.58. So again, we will use the source IP, and again, use this, 14. Yeah, it's not observed by. I meant observed from. I think that may be an English as a second language situation, which is fine until the part where you publish it without QA. I don't ever. Does that mean the IP had a VPN connect to it? I think it means the other. I think it means the other thing, Prax. What they're asking for is whence came the VPN connection to a central location. But they're just, yeah, struggling with some prepositions, which is understandable. Prepositions are tricky. But get you somebody who knows how to proofread them before you publish your instructional material. All right, so that was Splunk Basics. We can shut this down. Now let's go do something. We've got a couple of these. I want to try to speedrun these today. Incident handling with Splunk, investigating with Splunk, and then benign, which is the big challenge. I think we can get them. I want to knock these out today. Prepositions are evil. They don't matter until they do. Prepositions are super evil. I have to say, there are a lot of things that I really appreciate about East Asian languages, and the way that they handle prepositions is one of them. The structure is much simpler. And also the way that, especially Japanese and Chinese, handle tense. Phenomenal. So much easier than what we have going on in Latinate and Germanic languages. What if I told you that in Chinese there is no verb conjugation? When something happened in the past, you add le to the end of the action set. Yeah. It's not verbal aspect. It's called a particle. Japanese uses verbal aspect. So they'll basically a verb is either completed or not completed. I reloaded this and now where am I? Okay, I'm in SIM. Okay, so we go incident handling with Splunk. Let's handle some incidents. I've dumped a lot of points into incident handling. This room covers an incident handling scenario using Splunk. Oh, we're going to use some OSINT. That's... Okay, so this is actually cool because a lot of times during IR, when I'm in Splunk, I will be using OSINT as well. For example, if it's a user that I don't know, not gonna lie, like I will absolutely use my LinkedIn Premium subscription to find out what's going on. Like, is this person legit? Which, by the way, is how I found one of our pen testers one time. For whatever reason, during an engagement, they decided to use their real name on something. And I was like, huh, That's a weird thing to do. And I checked out LinkedIn. I was like, oh, you work for insert vendor here. Well then, let's contain that endpoint. Why would they not use their real name? They aren't trying to be stealthy. In this particular case, they were trying to be stealthy, Al. It was a red team engagement. They were in fact trying to evade us. Yeah, my mistake. But the objective there was to evade us. All right. Preparation, detection, analysis, containment. Oh, that's interesting. So this incident handling lifecycle, for whatever reason, has decided to not use PICER-L. Lessons learned. Uh-oh. Lessons learned. Lessons learned. Oh, boy. Now, while this is generally correct and it's fine, I find it interesting that in this particular branch of the SOC level 1 learning path, they've gone for this framework as opposed to PICER-L, which we've covered before, right? And that is what they cover in the actual incident response branch, right? And this is closer to where I like to live. I have some other feelings about SANS, but this particular structure is 100% on the money. Preparation, identification, containment, eradication, recovery, and lessons learned. This is what I live by when I'm doing. Yeah, our Pikmin is a different one, but this is like what all of our stuff is keyed on. The only thing that's kind of interesting is that sometimes this and this, depending on who your adversary is, you kind of want to not go too aggro on. Don't let them, once you have identified what's going on, make sure that they're not going to anything sensitive. But sometimes you want to, in order to actually successfully identify, you can't contain too quickly because you're not going to get enough data. It's a little bit of a, depending on what your objective is, because there's obviously the easy, like, nuke it from orbit. That's the only way to be sure. But actually, you're not sure, because if you quickly burn a machine and you aren't, and you like send it to reimage or whatever, before you know for sure what you've been dealing with, you don't know that you got everything. And it's entirely possible that the infection is more widespread than you know. So you can go to containment and eradication way too quickly. And sometimes I have found there are procedures in organizations that encourage containment and eradication too quickly before identification is really complete. And identification requires sufficient data from an actor on an endpoint to understand what it is that they're doing and what they're trying to do. All right. Let's fire up this machine. Hopefully it's a little bit better resource than the last one. In this exercise, we will investigate a cyber attack in which the attacker defaced an organization's website. Is this just Boss of the SOC 1? The organization has Splunk as a SIEM solution. Our task is a... By the way, how do you pronounce it? SIEM or SIEM? Before I got into my my position that I'm in now, I said SIEM, but all of my coworkers say SIM. Oh no, it is Boss of the SOC V1. Well, we've done this one before, but okay. Whatever. Yeah, it's however your boss pronounces it. That's about right. Oh, boy. All right, we've done this one before. Seem like in sewing, yeah. Man, Boss of the SOC V1, how many times have I done this challenge? It's, oh boy. How have they structured this? There's just a few of these here. All right. I remember there being some really funky parts of this. Yeah, there's one part, if I remember, maybe it's in Boss of the SOC V2, where they make you do Mac OS stuff, and the fields are all strange, but I think we'll be okay here. Oh, yeah, bad gateway. I love seeing that. No, we've only let it up for like a minute or two. It'll take Splunk a little bit longer to bring all of its data up. As I was mentioning, you can... There's like a Splunk, what is it, evaluation? Yeah, so you can actually get the Splunk enterprise trial. And what is it? So index up to 500 megabytes a day for 60 days. So that's your limit. Probably your home lab is not generating 500 megs of data for 60 days or per day, but you may want to hold on to it for longer than 60 days. So that kind of sucks. But if you want to try out Splunk, it is entirely possible to do so. And you can just get the universal forwarder. Now, by downloading this, you are basically signing up to get Splunk spam forever. Just as a heads up. But that's okay. Hey, Tiny Witch. Good to see you. Yes, still streaming. I haven't been run out of here just yet. They sell your email to other vendors? Well, sure. I put Splunk in the same category as I put Microsoft, which is they offer a product that is, in fact, very good. And if you are doing this professionally, this is an organization you are going to have to deal with. And so it is better to know it. Oh, Splunk licensing matchstick is bananas. Splunk licensing is going to be a gigantic part of any sort of security budget if you're all in on Splunk. Because you're not just... No, we like Splunk fine for what it is, Al. It's just that it's expensive, and they're going to behave like a Gartner leading quadrant vendor for you, okay? Which means that they're not going to be as responsive to certain support things. They have a lot of cool resources, but they are just super expensive. Even if you're running Splunk on-prem, the amount of compute that you have to deal with, even just the raw hardware, is going to be pricey at scale, and you are paying by retention in part. So the bigger your organization, the more data you're storing, the more you're paying. So yeah, it gets pricey very quickly. And yeah, certainly Splunk Cloud is going to be even more so. But I do like their software. All right. Searchable retention, archive retention gets confusing too. That's kind of true with Azure as well. So with Azure, you have you have your data for, what is it, like, I think, is it 90 days? And then it goes into archive, and basically what you will do is you'll pay a rehydration fee if you need to go back and get your data from longer than 90 days prior. Okay, so our website has been defaced. Successfully defaced the website. I'm really not Batman.com. Okay. So we're going to do the recon phase first, which is actually, in fact, preparation identification. Now, they're going to tell us to do a few things, but I will say that during an incident response, especially when I'm coming into a brand new Splunk instance, the first thing that I do, we're going to click this over to all time. And I'm going to do index equals star. We'll do stats count by index first to learn what my indexes are. I want to know what my data looks like. Okay, it looks like it's all in bots v1. And there's a ton of data, as you can see. Now we're looking at much more data than we were in the last instance, right? Almost 1 million individual events. Now, index is one field, but the other one that's going to be more revealing here is source type. And that's the next thing that I'm going to look for, just to see what is the shape of my data. Here we go. So now you can start to see what kind of stuff do I have in here and how much of it is there. I've got Win registry events. I have some FortiGate stuff. I have IIS logs. I have streams. So this is, by the way, this is from Zeek, right? So I have DHCP, DNS, HTTP, ICMP, IP. So I have this kind of application layer data about the raw traffic going on inside of my environment. That's super helpful, especially, I bet, the HTTP. And sometimes, oh, we don't have SMTP in this data set. We have some Suricata data as well. And then we have Win event log, as well as XML Win event log. My guess is that Win event log is parsed, XML is not. We'll see. Hey, GIF, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the gift sub. Or, no, just thanks for the 6 months of consistent subscription and 8 months total. Technique, good to see you. 9 months, incredible. Thank you so much. I had a good Thanksgiving. I hope you did as well. I hope everyone did who celebrates. My. Ginge has gifted a tier 1 sum to Gromit. Gromit has been around for a minute. What are we naming our stream baby? Let's name it Join Mastodon if you want to follow me on social media from now on. Husky and I both kind of made the choice to tap out from Twitter. Oh, stream is from Splunk itself? Oh, interesting. I, for some reason, thought it was from Zeek. Thank you, Nesneros. Oh, look at that. Matchstick Boy, thank you so much for the 5 gift subs. Incredible. To Feels. To Laz. I have no idea how to pronounce that one. The Shy Hat. And to Leon. Okay, so we have Suricata. That's cool too. Now they're telling us I've been seeing a lot of people tap out of Twitter lately. I'm not really on it much, so I don't really understand the reason behind it. What's that all about? Okay, so quick why, because we're seeing a lot about this. And by the way, anybody who wants to like argue with me about it, just stop. You will not convince me otherwise. Okay, so you can have a different opinion. That's fine, but keep it to yourself. The reason why I and Husky have decided that we can no longer basically ethically use Twitter is, first of all, for me, it was that you had a megalomaniacal plutocrat start impacting people's livelihoods by firing people for no reason. And really impacting their lives to the point where now there were people who were getting benefits from Twitter, for example, to try to have children with in vitro fertilization. That was a benefit they were receiving from Twitter. And even if they're still employed, those benefits have gone away. And now they're in their middle of a treatment cycle, and they're trying to figure out how to make this happen. That's a massive amount of harm to somebody. That's just one example, to say nothing of having to try to go find, not everybody who got fired was a rock star software engineer who's going to be able to find another job. And even if right away, and even if they are, that disruption still does cause harm. For what reason? For ego? So that's part one. Then part two is, what kind of content is now going to be allowed on the platform? Well, we now know that every suspended account, or almost every suspended account, is coming back, including people who were causing real harm to other people. Leave the former president, leave celebrity people who we know got banned aside. Let's leave that aside. The hordes of people who were engaging in hateful speech are allowed to come back. And instead, who gets banned? Folks like Chad Loader, or folks like Vishal Singh, who are reporting on fascist behavior or police abuse or transphobia. Those are the people who get suspended? No. To participate in that platform is to provide free content to a company who is actively causing harm to society. And I cannot, in good conscience, continue to do so. So for that reason, I and a lot of other folks in InfoSec have moved over to Mastodon. There is an InfoSec-focused server instance run by Jerry Bell named infosec.exchange. I am not on that one, although the official Taggart Institute account is. But I myself am on Fosstodon because I think of myself more as an open source enthusiast before even an InfoSec person. So that's where I am. I'm on fosstodon.org. But there are plenty of instances. I've written a bunch. I've written a bunch about how to get started, including a thread on it. If you're interested in learning more, I've actually created a channel called FetiChat in our Discord that has these answers for you if you want to get started. Okay, back to the case. So they want us to basically do some recon saying this I'm really not Batman was defaced, so let's look for imreallynotbatman.com. Fair enough. Yeah, don't delete your account because after, I forget how long it is, but after a certain amount of time, once you deactivate your account, that your handle is up for grabs. So somebody else can start impersonating you, which is half the problem right now anyway. Okay, so we have imreallynotbatman.com, and you can just search across all fields in this. So we have 4 sources: IIS, Suricata, Stream, FortiGate. That makes sense. By the way, thank you so much for all of the subs in this hype train. We just set a record for how many subs inside of a hype train, so thank you so much. We've got a lot of Suricata going on. We have a lot of Stream HTTP. The problem is that this just tells us all of the traffic that involved that host. It doesn't tell us anything else. Now, if I have Suricata alerts, that might be a great place to start. And it looks like I have quite a few alerts on August 10th. Notice that we've got this bit of a spike over here. Yeah, this is all kind of August 10th. All right. A lot of post data, a lot of get data. Oh, look at this. We have a method of script alert. That's what you want to see. And look, we even have Acunetics, which tells us that Acunetics was used as maybe perhaps a legitimate or not so legitimate test. Our user agent is cool too. We have a lot of regular stuff, but we also have URL lib. We also have some injection tests. We have Acunetics doing its thing. So obviously somebody was going after us across all the fields you can fuzz, looks like. Now, if we want to see what's up with that, let's say like for URL lib, like who was hitting us with Python? Right? Now we can say who is our source IP there? 23, 22, 63, 114, 192, 68, 250, 70. So this is most likely our external, 23, 22, 63, 114. So that's cool. Let's start answering some of these questions. Once the Arcata alert highlighted the CVE value associated with the attack attempt. Did it? Let's go back. We were filtering a little bit too much. Let's go back. Is Splunk included in the new THM path? Yep, that's in fact what we're doing, Wally. All right, let's do event type alert. And then we'll do alert signature. Let's do stats count by alert.signature. And we will sort minus count. Possible cross-site scripting. On mouse over. Likely cross-site scripting attempt. XXE. Very cute. So it looks like they're going all over the map. Now we do have a CVE here. 2014-6271. What is the CMS our web server is using? That's a great question. We can learn that a bunch of different ways. Let's go back to our events. All right, let's focus in on our host name here. And then let's take a look at our HTTP URL, which really just reveals right away what CMS, content management system, we're dealing with. Is just Joomla, because I guess they hate themselves. I have done them all, by the way. I have done WordPress, I've done Joomla, I have done Drupal, I've done Django, I've done Rails, I've done Ghost. I've done them all. The one that drives me the craziest is Joomla. It's the one that has the most, like, you can do anything, but nobody has sort of vibe to it. Like, there are Joomla themes and there are plugins, but it's it feels like such an anemic ecosystem compared to what you have out there for Drupal, what you have for WordPress. And like, I don't want to write any more PHP. I don't understand. Like, PHP will never die, but I don't want it in my life anymore. Except when testing web apps, then PHP can stick around. That's totally fine. Easy days when I'm testing PHP apps. What is the web scanner the attacker used to perform the scanning attempts? Well, we already know that answer, Acunetics. what is the IP address of the server I'm really not Batman.com? Well, we have this DEST IP. We found this before, 192.168.250.70, which is plainly where our website lives. Awesome. Exploitation phase. What do they want us to look at for? This is the query that they're after here. And this is a good one. We'll talk about why it's important. Source type equals stream HTTP, DEST IP. So going to our I'm really not Batman.com website, and we're looking at the post data. Why do we want to look at the post data? Because this is where a bunch of injection attempts are going to be. And especially, this is where login attempts are going to be. Right? So we can actually take a look at... Let's do a quick stats count by URL. And we will do a sort minus count. What? URI. Now it's called URI. Fine. Stats count by URI. Thank you. Okay. So we have index.php / component search. That's really interesting. And then index and then administrator index.php. We have some login attempts here. Not too many, though. So these are all hyper rare compared to what we have up here. So Joomla index.php, administrator index.php. Now, I'm going to show you some stuff that they're not going to show you. They're walking you down the primrose path here with some of these. But if I saw this, the first thing that I might do is I might do something like this. And then we'll put this in parentheses. HTTP, or no, URI in, and then in parentheses, we would create a list of URIs. I want to see exactly what's going on with these. Right? Now, stats count by URI is no longer helpful. So let's take that out and rerun this query. So we filter this down in a much nicer way, because this is where the majority of the attacks are. So we start there. We'll look at the rare ones as well, but this looks like where the brute force maybe took place. So what do we do here? See some injection attempts maybe here. Yeah, I want to see the form data. So I'll use table to get that. All right, so now we're getting a sense of what kind of stuff is happening in this attack. And it looks like they're going after the search, which was a vulnerability, right? We got that vulnerability, that CVE from the last section, right? For the alert, which was what? Oh, it's just shell shock. That's not helpful. There's another one going on in here. Now, oh, do I not have Titler installed? Shame on me. Okay. So one of the things that does drive me a little bit crazy about Splunk is that whenever you do a search like this, you can save the query, but that becomes onerous quickly, right? And so what I like to do instead is I like to have multiple tabs open. The problem is that when you do that, they all have the same title, right? So instead, to deal with that problem, I wrote an extension called Titler, which I tried to get into the Chrome store, but I was not able to. But nevertheless, Titler's really cool because what it does is, yeah, I'll just clone this down into scripts. Is it allows me to rename tabs. Load unpacked. Titler. There you are. Source. There's Titler. And we'll pin that. So what Titler allows me to do, right? Let me reload this page. Is change the title. So here I can say something like form data. Now that is the title here. And then over here, I can do whatever else I want. Maybe logins or something like that. And now my Splunk searches actually have meaning. I don't have to guess as to what tab I'm on. I don't know why this is such a pain, but it is. And I'll also say this. If you reload the same URL, right, the title gets reset. But this thing does save state in local storage. So if I hit load title, it'll find the same URL and reapply the title. All the parameters for a Splunk search query are in get, so it'll be pretty precise. Right, so the login page is in fact Joomla administrator index.php. So we will knock out these others and just look at what was going on for administrator index.php. And now, of course, you can see that we're just getting all of the usernames. Now, if we wanted to, we can actually extract fields with regular expressions to get new data out. With named groups, that is possible. Rex, yeah. So if we use a named capture group, we can get the username out of this. We were in smart mode, so we don't actually have that. But if we want to find exactly the username, and it's looks like it's all, oh, wrong one. Here, all admin. But if we wanted to extract it, we could do something like this. Rex username. You can even see the kind of the syntax here. So it's form data, and then what are we going to do? We're going to do username equals, and then just the username. Until an ampersand. And then if we ask for the username, now we have ourselves a new field. It would help. Come on. Oh, form dash data should be underscore. Let's try that again. Much better. So I still have some work to do. It's pulling out admin ampersand. So this is too permissive, right? Should be a plus for one or more. And let's say AZ 0 through 9. Just make it alphanumeric for now. See if that does enough for me. Look at that. Much better. So now we have the username, right? And we can run Rex multiple times. You can also run it once with as many named groups as you want, if you want to do the whole thing, right? In this case, password equals, and then we'll call it password. And we're going to capture, or pass WD is the we're looking for. Let's see how that goes. And basically, we're going to do not ampersand for this one. Let's see how that goes. Username, password. Well, that didn't do too badly, huh? Now, we missed some of them where the password was at the end, so we'll make that last part optional. A little bit better. Or the end of the line. A little bit better. Okay. Obviously, we can extract some data here. And also notice... So you think about this, and it's like the last one... Or if you want to do stats count by password... So there's two uses of Batman, right? And then there's a bunch of garbage elsewhere. So guess which one was correct? Right? Oh, dang. They're actually having us do the exact same thing. I did not read this beforehand. What IP address is likely attempting a brute force attack against I'm really not Batman? So we kind of have this already. We'll put this in verbose mode so we can go get all the data from this. And looks like our source IP is going to be what? Yeah, 23, 22, 63, 114 is our bad guy here. And obviously it's our login attempt, right? So this is our URI. Against which username? Admin. What was the correct password? Batman. How many unique passwords were attempted in the brute force attempt? Now, how did they do the... Password equals just creds. Word plus. All right. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. And we now have this field of password, right? And it tells us there are over 100 values. No, I didn't want that. Just want the raw sum here. $344 unique passwords, I think, is what we're after here. No. Oh. You can do count password by password. Dedupe. It should already be deduped. No, the problem is here. 412. There we go. There we go. After finding the correct password, which IP did the attacker use to log into the admin panel? This is always fun, where password right, there are two. Now, where is another way of doing a filter, especially after your initial filter? And it's nice to have these kind of piped through. Is there a function for cardinality? Sabertus, say more about what you mean by that. Cardinality. Do you mean categorical values? All right, so what is our source IP here? It's, my guess is going to be different. Oh no, 2322. But there was another one, this 4080 14842. Table source IP. Yeah, ordered by time. So the first, this is the deal. The brute forcer was run from 23, 22, 63, 114, right? And that got a hit. Then the attacker actually logged in from a separate IP, this 4080 right here. Awesome. Okay. Now they want us to take a look at what happened on the endpoint. Because, of course, like almost any PHP content management system, once you have admin, you also usually have code execution on the server. He will try. Once the attacker has successfully exploited the system security of a system, wow. Way to assume the attacker is going to be a he. Will try to install a backdoor or an application for persistence or to gain more control of the system. This activity comes under the installation phase. Okay. In the previous exploitation phase, we found evidence of the web server I Am Really Not Batman getting compromised by a brute force attack. We sure did. To begin an investigation, we would narrow down any HTTP traffic coming into our server 192.168.250.70 containing the term .exe. Interesting. So if it's like posting, it's uploading a file, right, through the upload field. That's what they're trying to get at here, which is an assumption, but not the worst assumption to make. In this case, it looks like we have some. I'm going to take a look at the post data here, what was uploaded. And we can see that there's a bunch of junk in here. But you can see that it is, in fact, a Windows file because it gives us the octet stream. It's the raw bytes. But we also have the file name here, which, again, we can use some regular expressions to parse this out if we want, but plainly we have 3791.exe. So now that's kind of the next part that we want to go after. Right, which we have in fact found. And now we're going to go look for just 3791.exe on here. And this is a good tactic, right? Once you find a new thing to search for, make it as general as possible, make it as naive as possible, because you don't know where you're going to find this data just yet. And it's entirely possible for you to fixate too hard and miss something by assuming your data is in one place or another, right? For example, a bunch of stuff here is at 9:56 p.m., but the first one was at 9:52. So if I were focused right here on 9:56, I might have missed this 9:52 p.m. event. All right, so what kind of data are we getting? We have a bunch from XML win event log and the 3 from win event log. I don't really know why. So I'm going to focus down on XML win event log. What do I have? All right, so there's that 9:56 as opposed to 9:52. See how I missed that? So if I want both of those, I could also do source type in. And that should give me a couple more events. 72. All right, see that? What kind of event data do I have? So I have a bunch. It looks like I have sysmon data, which is great news for me. I have event ID 1. I have event ID 3. Only 1 network connection, which is interesting, and then 5 process executions. And then 4688, which is also process ran. That's the built-in Windows application log. It's not sysmon, but 4688s are also super important. Very cool. Now, one of the things that I love to do with Windows event log data is time chart count by event code. I love this visualization. And area chart, please. It's actually, this is too small. And in part it's because we've got so many event ID 7s. What happened here? So we've got a bunch of process 1s, process 2, event ID 7. Which is image loaded, right? So it looks like this is when stuff really was taking place. In this window here. Okay. So what are our questions from Splunk? Right. So it is asking us to go for event code equals 1, which we can certainly do. What is happening? All right, looks like we can get away with XML when event log, so we'll knock that out. And then we'll do event code. Whoops. Event code equals 1. There's an understood and amongst all these. So 5 events. This is the raw, which is really annoying. But you can see that we do have data parsed here. So we'll do table time hashes. What you got for me? Okay, so these are the hashes of the thing that got run. We've got the MD5, we got the SHA-256. And we'll also want to get image, if it's there. Awesome. So, and this is why that's important, right? What is the thing we're getting the hash of? We don't really care about the cmd.exe hash, and we really don't care about the conhost.exe hash, but we super care about the 3791 hash. So we'll take this MD5. Also, always just a good idea to toss that onto VT if it's not yours. Obviously evil. Non-Euclidean, thank you so much for the follow. Aztec1337, thank you so much. All right, which hash did they want? They wanted the MD5. Here you go. Looking at the logs, which user executed the program 3791? Well, we're right there. We're ready to find it. Put that in verbose mode for me, please. NT authority /I user, which makes sense because this was the essentially the service running the web server. What is the other name associated with file 3791.exe? Well, we just did that. ab.exe. All right. Action on objectives. So what does this thing do? Before we go on to whatever they're trying to do is, look, well, I'm not done with my sysmon logs. Okay. First of all, I want to see event code 3. I know there was just one of them, but that one is going to be super important. First of all, what was it phoning home to? The destination port was 3791. Interesting, right? And the destination IP was 2322.63.114. That's an odd port, which we can use elsewhere, right? We have the source IP of 192.168.250.70. So we can do with this, we can take this information, and now I pivot from there and go like source IP, whoops, source IP, because I want to see what was, and then, okay, and then we'll go dest port, yeah, it's dest underscore port, 3791. We have 4 events. And the reason why I think this is cool... All right, so we got Suricata with one of them. And then Stream TCP and then FortiGate. Seeing some of it. Suricata found it. And what do we have? Okay. Fortinet is flagging it as honeypot access, which is interesting. Oh, extreme 90s vibe from what do we have going on here? From No Wave. It's almost like Crystal Method. What movie does Crystal Method make me think of? Chat. 90s kids, where you at? Now, the other thing we can do is we can knock this out without the port. We can try the dest IP of 2322. So it looks like it was phoning back home, right to this dest IP. First Rules, you want to talk about it? Absolutely not. I despise that movie. No, there was another one. I'm dorkier than that, remember. Absolutely iconic scene with Crystal Method playing in the background. The answer is Blade. Totally underrated movie. All right, so we have quite a few more events, but remember... So we have, oh, look at this. There was another port hiding in there, 1337, right? Rather than 3791, which you already found. So let's look at 1337. That's why you zoom back out and back in. Yeah, no. That was Wesley Snipes pre doing time in Graterford State Penitentiary for tax evasion. Okay, lots of cool stuff going on in here. And if we look at the time, you know, we think about our time field here. This is 10:06. So this was much later than the 9:52, right? So we know this is going on later than the initial attack. This is, again, why you want to look at the whole picture. Now, let's jump back. So now we know that there was something else going on from this machine, and it was communicating over port 1337, right? So what was that about? Well, let's actually go back to 3791.exe, because there's another thing that we might want to do. So we looked at process creations, we looked at network connections. What other event codes might be of interest here? It's image loaded. No file writes, which is interesting, right? But depending on what that was, we may not have seen that. But now we know. Let's look at event code equals 3. Let's look at our network connections here. Because if I have sysmon data, I'll hook onto that for as much as I can. Destination port. So there we go. We've got 1337. We actually have data on that. So dest port equals 1337. So talk to me about that. What was the thing that made that happen? Did somehow, was there an underscore that I missed? Destination port. Could you, for the love of God, be consistent with your naming? That is something that does drive me crazy. Okay, so we have 3 events. This is 1006. Right? Now the image field is going to tell us. So this is phpcgi.exe. So this was getting kind of hijacked here. This may have been a reverse shell or something like that. Okay. Now in this zone, right? What I might want to look for is what kind of file writing was happening. Do we have this information? We do not. Well, that just sucks. So we may have to pivot from there, right? Because what I would be looking for is what kind of file writing took place. But that's okay. If we go back to event code 1 and we go to parent image equals 3791.exe. No? There we go. We have 2 events. Command.exe invocations, right? Well, I want the command line. It just says cmd.exe. So now the question is, what happened from here? So command.exe was kicked off, and the parent image was here. So the process ID was 1296. Or, no. The process ID is 3424. I want that. I want everything with the process ID of 3424. Why is that different? Okay. I just want that. What kind of stuff did 3424 do? Now, see how I have a lot more? Is this Splunk? This is Splunk. 3620. That was the other one we saw. Oh, because it's so this is tricky. So with process IDs, be aware they get reused, right? So this is why your time filtering is so important. I want to filter just down to August 10th and zoom to that selection if I'm using that process ID, because I don't care what happened on August 24th right now. What was this about? Right? We have a lot of image loadeds, but we have right here a 1. Do I have a command line? Just cmd.exe. And the parent command line is just 3791.exe. So we don't see anything like that. Let's see about 3620, which was the other process ID that we saw. Just popping a command prompt. So we're not seeing any particularly, interesting command executions here. Maybe we can look for PowerShell. I'm just kind of going off of what things I would expect, right? Now there's a lot of Splunk junk in here as well, which we would have to, yeah, this is all from Splunk itself, which is something you're going to have to filter out if you're working with Splunk. It makes a ton of noise. All right, let's go back to the actual questions it's asking. So we wanted to look at just what was going on with the destination IP. And so we kind of had that going on, right? We had without the dest port. And the URL shows the defacing that's going on. And this is kind of in the website, right? Because it was website defacement that was the original case. So we see agent.php, nice. And then we have Poison Ivy is coming for you, Batman.jpg. And look at this. We even get the host name that we're concerned about, right? Pranking glass scene bracket, or prank glass scene bracket.jumpingdrive.com. We know that this communication on port 1337 was related to what we saw going on in the endpoint. Right, so this is the agent. This is likely the reverse shell, the web shell that they had going on. Not reverse shell. Reverse shell, because it was communicating over a port. But it was uploaded. Agent.php was uploaded. Then this image was uploaded. And this is the reason why you're not seeing any of that activity coming from the 3791.exe, because this was all happening in the web space. All right, so what do they want us to see? What is the name of the file that defaced the I'm really not Batman.com website? All right, so it's plainly Poison Ivy is coming for you, Batman. And then FortiGate detected SQL attempts from attacker. What was the name of the rule that triggered during the SQL? Let's duplicate this. And here we will use titler again to look for Fortinet. FortiGate traffic, FortiGate universal threat monitoring. What you got for me? We got to change the dest IP to this. Actually, that's the source IP. And the dest IP was 192.168.250.70. Okay. No. So if you want to do kind of a fuzzy match on a field, you can use where match and then give it the field, so signature, and then we'll do SQL. Table time signature. Let's do stats count by signature. And then sort. Let's count just to see. What are we doing here? There's just the one. So this is the signature we're after. HTTP URI SQL injection. Yeah. Oh, we already found this. The question was, right? Because we found this already. Looking through this. So what is the dynamic DNS, which we already found? I wonder how many times I've done Splunk Boss of the SOC. It's a lot. Weaponization. In the weaponization phase, the adversaries would create malware. Yeah. Establish domains. Sure. Create a command and control server. I don't agree with that because this already happened, right? It's not like the attackers were like, "Oh no, we got a shell. Let's spin up all of our infrastructure." That's already done. So I don't know about this phase, but okay. Rob Tex. Again, I'm gonna live on VT, and in fact, I'm gonna sign into my VT account so I can do graphs and cool stuff like that. In fact, watch this. All right, let's add Jumping Crab to our virus total. God, so good. If you, this, by the way, I'm not paying for Virus Total. I just have an account. And if you haven't signed up for an account, why? This is what you can do with VT. You can create this, and you can actually save this as an investigation, right? You can save it in perpetuity, so you can refer to it later. And so we have all of the relationships starting from our initial node of this domain going out to any historical whois. So we have IP addresses that are connected to it. We have an immediate parent of Jumping Crab, which has 4 detections, right? And we can see that's a bunch of subdomains I don't want to expand. But any referrer files, which you got from me, if I expand that out, it'll show me any of the other malware that is connected to it. And we have referrer files right off of Pranking Glass, right? So we have this tar. We have this gzip file, SA randomness.spl. So already we have some good stuff that we can use. Graph is available with a free VirusTotal account? Sure is. I have paid none dollars to VirusTotal, and I would, except that the only amount of money you can pay to VirusTotal is all of your money. It's extremely expensive for VirusTotal intelligence. It's something for companies to pay for. It's so good, though. So this is kind of how I would do a lot of my initial investigation for something like this. I would say, like, what's going on here? Now, what is the question that they're asking? We have siblings. And they want us to use robtex. So sure, let's take a look at robtex. I ain't logging in. Okay. Who chose this color? This whole thing, you know what this looks like? It looks like, I don't know if how many of you have ever used Fillet Destiny, the library software. This is what it looks like. Some database engineer was like, what do you mean I have to generate a user interface? Fine, here's a table. Go away. Let me go back to writing raw SQL queries. What is the question that they're after? Oh, right. So they're saying, what are the associated domains, right? So here, there are a bunch of siblings. Jumpingcrab.com. But if we add the IP address, the 23, right, we're going to get some much more interesting information to the VT graph, which you do just by adding this here and searching in VT. And it'll add a new node. But look, there was a relationship because there was a resolution. So now we have this connected as well. And this we can look at and learn a little bit more about. Right? Now we have this ab.exe, which was in fact the one that we found coming off of here. And it looks like we have some resolutions here. Yeah, let's go get those resolutions. Incredible. So who is resolving to 2322, right? What are our subdomains? There we go. So you see how we're getting some of these. WinCorp NC, WinCorpInc.com. So now we're getting them here. And all from just pulling out the virus total graph. It's also here. I mean, RobTex might have had it. Here comes virus total telling us the same things. If we look at the node list for our resolutions, we find poisonivy.com, right? So here we can go to the historical whois and see what that's all about. And that'll give us an IP address, likely, for that one. We have so we have a whois record for poisonivy.com. Okay, so the question is, we found multiple IP domains associated with this particular IP along with the email address, poisonivy.com. And they want us to search for this domain on VirusTotal, which we can do. We can do it inside the graph too, which will be probably the handiest way to do this. Yeah, there we go. Now, there's already a connection to it. And what do we have? Right, here's poisonivy.com. We have some resolutions. Nice. And some historical whois. And this is actually showing us this right here, 34.102.36.180. No, that's not the one they wanted. What IP address is Poison Ivy tied to domains that are pre-staged to attack Wayne Enterprises? Oh, probably the Wayne Inc. stuff, right? So let's go back over here. This gets a little messy over time, right? So we can filter nodes if we want to. I want domains and IP addresses. Or, sorry. Or IP addresses. There we go. Wayne Corp has a resolution over here. So I'm not sure which one of these they're after. If we do this outside of the graph, right? It looks like we have some of these as well. And there are 4 siblings here. This is a different graph. Right. What are we listening to? Ah, system glitch. Very nice. I'm not sure which one they're after here. That are pre-stage to attack Wayne Enterprises. It wasn't the 34, and it was the it wasn't the maybe it's the 91. Unless it's the 2322. 2223. Fine. Based on the data gathered from this attack and common open source intelligence sources for domain names, what is the email address that is most likely associated with the Poison Ivy ABT group? Yeah, so we have this SMTP, right? There's lillian.poisonivy.com. But that's not an email address. Yeah, it has a bunch of graphs. In fact, we can look at other people's graphs here. This is going to be a little bit cheating, but they'll look very similar to the ones that we had. Yeah, no. Come on, let's go get some emails. Let's knock these off. Let's make a new blank graph here and start with poisonivy.com. See what we find. Okay. We've got some subdomains. It doesn't have relations. Some historical. Got a whois record. Resolutions 34, 184, 23, 22. Let's expand our I don't want resolutions because we already have these. We found 2322. Let's get its resolutions. Refer files. Sometimes clicking on the graph is a little bit tricky. This email one always trips me up. We just go to Aaron or who is. We can get some information here. No. Just go to Aaron. No results. Search Aaron's who is. Google's who is pretty nice too. Thank you. Or MX tool. No. Why was that not the first result? This is dig, but I actually didn't want that. MX Toolbox will do fine. If somebody in chat can remind me how to grab this IP address, because it's like you look at who is data for one, but like they're not going to have their IP address or their email address on these. We can also look for information, see if we find something valuable. Okay, what do you want from me? I am not a robot, as far as I know. Maybe I am, though. Yeah. The registry details don't tell us, because it's private registry, it doesn't tell us who this person is. Based on the data gathered from this attack and common open source intelligence sources for domain names, what is the email address that is most likely associated with the Poison Ivy APT group? I don't know. Baseline data gathered from this attack. I think it's one of the Wayne Enterprise ones. To be honest with you. Which we had over here, right? Yeah, Wayne Corp Inc. But we don't have a whole lot of data on that one. These refer files. No. This is not where I wanted to get stuck. All right. Back to basics here. Files. No, this is really helping. We might have to use another source here. Threat crowd. Whoa, what? What happened to... What? What is this? Cool. Threat crowd's not available. We'll use Talos. Come on. I love that they always have this as like, no, it's fine. Okay. Alien Vault, please have something for me. We've got some domains. That's passive DNS, associated URLs. You have anything for me on poisonivy.com? Passive DNS, associated URLs, related domains. No email addresses to be found here, though. We have record emails. Lillian Rose. We actually found one. Not the one they were looking for, though. Oh, wait, it's because I pasted in the wrong thing. Thank God. Okay. Moving on. What do they want us to do here? Delivery. Attackers create malware and infect devices. Sure do. They want us to look at Threat Miner. Okay. I kind of don't love this because it's. I prefer to look at sources like Alien Vault. What is the question that they're asking? Found 3 files associated with it. So we're going to virus total anyway. Hybrid analysis. Is this not the hash that they want us to look at? No. That's an MD5. This is a SHA-256. What exactly do they want here? What is the name of the malware associated with the Poison Ivy infrastructure? Miranda Tate screensaver.scr.exe. Why bother with this section? That was it? Boo! Okay. I didn't expect to have to go through the entire boss of the SOC again. So that was fun. But, you know, we got to use Splunk and learn a little bit more about how to use it well. Let's see if there's... I swear, if this is boss v2, I'm going to lose it. Oh, this is quick. This is a quick one. Maybe we won't get to benign today, but I think this is probably a good one to do to close out. All right, we'll fire this up. SOC analyst Johnny has observed some anomalous behaviors in the logs of a few Windows machines. It looks like the adversary has access to some of these machines and successfully created some backdoor. Okay. All the required logs are ingested in the index main. Good to know. On one of the infected hosts, the adversary was successfully created. So I'm just looking over the questions here. What are we looking for? Creating a backdoor user. What is the new username? Probably going to be looking for like net user commands. On the same host, a registry key was also updated regarding the new backdoor user. Examine the logs. Try to impersonate. What is the command used to add a backdoor user from a remote computer? Looks like a full file path here. How many times login attempts? What's the name of the affected host on which suspicious PowerShell commands? Great. PowerShell logging is enabled. Beautiful. How many event logs? PowerShell logging is really interesting. It's different than You totally missed the email address. Yeah, that one's tricky. Alien Vault comes through on that one. Kusitazo says, hello everyone, I was assigned to work as a Splunk analyst. What do you think I should know first? I currently work and have experience as a computer forensic analyst. Previously, I worked as a system and network administrator. In the meantime, CCNA and CEH. Those are 2 very different certifications. If you're assigned as a Splunk analyst, that's kind of where you are right now, and you have a background as a forensic analyst, then I think what you want to do is get a good understanding of how the events that you're already familiar with as a forensic investigator manifest in Splunk events. So, for example, you're used to looking at things in the registry. Cool. You're used to looking at file creations and maybe even command executions, right? And maybe Windows event logs. How do those manifest in Splunk? How do you search for them in Splunk? I think starting from where you're really strong there and figuring out how those represent for endpoint investigations in Splunk is probably the easiest starting point. And then the next thing you want to go for, and the CCNA goes right in, speaks right to this, you want to really build up your networking game, because you're going to have, hopefully, your Splunk data will have network telemetry inside of it, and that may be an area of growth for you. So you want to be able to pivot from that endpoint data over into the network information, and that's really going to empower you. For example, just staying in the Windows universe, what does SMB enumeration look like? What event codes are you looking for? How does it look? What's normal? What's not normal? And then things like Active Directory. What does Kerberoasting look like? What does running Bloodhound look like? All of that. Those are going to be good questions for you to be able to discover the answers to. All right, let's see if this thing is up and running. Yes? Maybe? PowerShell logging is an interesting beast. It's different than sysmon logging. Noisier, really. Is that Polish? You're very welcome. Cool. Depending on how you draw a map, my father's side of the family comes from either Poland or Ukraine. And depending on what year in the 30s and 40s it was. Okay. How we doing, Splunk? The index is main. What you got for me? And we're going to look for all time, of course. Let's zoom this back in so it's nice and easy to see for you all. 12,256 events on one of the affected hosts. The adversary was successful in creating a backdoor user. All right, let's see what kind of data we have. Again, we'll do that little stats count by source type. If I can type source type. Event logs. So all we have is event logs? Wild. Source type equals event logs. Okay. So there's one kind of log in here. Okay. What event IDs do we have? And let's actually run that by time chart count by event ID, not event code. That's real helpful. And we'll do use null, your use other equals false, because I want to see everything. And I don't want a column chart. I would like an area chart, pretty please. Wow, not helpful at all. Span equals 1 minute. Not really better. 1032 to 1030. What in the world? Wait, why do I have 12,000 events and they're all from like a second? They're all from 1 second. What? Yeah, they're all from 1 second. They're all from 1032 18. to 10:32:19. So they're all from 1 second. Wild. Okay. Lot of interesting event codes here. So okay. Already we're seeing some interesting stuff here. Just right off the bat, just by looking at it. So Windows PowerShell logs, pipeline execution details. This is kind of cool. It tells us the host application, which has some 64-bit encoded PowerShell in it, which I will be tossing into CyberChef. Or not, I guess. Wow. So I guess I do want... a time chart isn't helpful. Let's do stats count by event ID. Sort minus count. A lot of event ID 10s, 12s, 7s, 13s, 11s, 3s. Some 1s, which I'm going to look at first. And 4680. So basically, I want the sysmon logs first because they're clean. And then I'll pivot from them into the other stuff. 4103 is script block logging. That's PowerShell. It's going to be messy to read, though. But it will contain the entire PowerShell script block that I need. So that's going to be the first one. And then, what else? 4688, that's process executed. Some of these are noise. 4769 is going to be interesting. 5 of those. 4648, also good. 40, yeah. Oh, awesome, a gunship track. Okay, so what was the first question? The adversary was successful in creating a backdoor user. What is the new username? All right, so the first question then is, what is a... There is a Windows event for a new user created, which is 4720, which we saw, right? We're just going to leave ultimatewindowsecurity.com open because this is the Bible when we're doing stuff like this. So we'll go here and we'll do event ID equals 4720. A single event. Okay. So the new account was named Alberto with a 1, looks like, which is interesting. And James was the account name that did the deed. Okay. Takes some time. And it was on hostname Michael Bevan. Michael's misspelled, but whatever. It takes some time to get used to reading these Windows event logs. The subject is, when you're talking about creating a new thing, subject is the doer, and then there's a target often, or in this case, a new account. Okay. On the same host, a registry key was also updated regarding the new backdoor user. What is the full path of that registry key? So, we're going to look for Alberto, and then event ID equals, let's say 12 for registry. 2 events. Object added or deleted. Yeah. HKLM Sam, domains account, user's name's Alberto. Would be my guess. Woo! Examine the logs and identify the adversary. Identify the user that the adversary was trying to impersonate. So here the question would be like, User ID, no. Account name. So let's just take a look by stats count by account name. We got James, local service system. Okay. Oh, does it actually mean impersonate? As in, like, log in as? Because that's a different thing. The adversary was trying to impersonate. What is the command used to add a backdoor? I mean, there's James, there's system and local. Is it system? SYSTM. No. Curious what they actually mean by account name here. Is there a username? No. There's only... Yeah, that's not helpful. The problem is that these are getting emitted by... It's actually important to know about event logs. So when you're doing Windows event logs, you're getting... In Splunk, you're getting them from two different sources, ideally. Some of them you're getting from the endpoint directly, right? And some of them you're getting from your domain controller. In this case, for sure, we're getting some of these from the domain controller. How many successful logins do we have? We have 26 successful logins. And... Okay, here are the target usernames for the successful logins. Workstation 5 Mordor DC. And the $sign means that it's a machine account. It's the account used by the computer to authenticate to Active Directory. System and James. Those are the accounts. It's not James. That's not system. What's mean impersonate? All right. Well, they created Alberto, and then so 4720. We saw this. We saw this happen, and this happened again. It's all in like 1 second, so it's super annoying. And who is the source? The source is James, right? And then the account name was Alberto, who's never logged in. Identify the user that the adversary was trying to impersonate. So we have, look, if we go to our event ID database here, there won't be an impersonation. Special privileges. Let's look for 4672. To see if there were any special privileges assigned anywhere. 18 events. Subject username, James. Hmm. 26 of these things. Subject, account name. How well is this subject username? I think we're just going to have to look at these. Do we have target usernames? Again, we just have Workstation, Mordor DC, James here. Impersonation level. There is an impersonation level. Let's look at the impersonation level of impersonation. That's delegation. Oops. It's almost all of them. Okay. So this is, we want system out of here. I mean, is it Mordor DC? What are they looking for here? Honestly, so confused what they're after here. Let's go back because we know 4720, right? Is it possible to check in Splunk which user dumped the LSS process? Kind of. Depends on if you have process access being recorded, which is event ID 10. We're going to start from here. Now we're going to add, there's like plus or minus 5 milliseconds. Still one event, plus or minus 10 milliseconds. Still one event. Yeah, we're trying to adjust the time wrinkle here. Plus or minus 1 millisecond. Still 6,000 events. I don't have the granularity that I need to look at this here. All right, so let's see. Hostname Michael Bevan. User account was created. Account domain workstation 6. SAM account name is still Alberto. Okay. What was going on at all on this thing? 570 events. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. How many users do we have? There's CyberT/James. Certainly not the user that they were trying to impersonate. What is the command to add a backdoor from a remote user? Let's look for event ID 1 on here. What you got for me? 4 events. Aha! Okay, so there's net1, cute. Add Alberto PAW word 1. Now we're gonna do a table time command line. Show me everything. All right, so net user WMI, then net1 user add Bordeaux PAW1. Okay. And it's all we have from event ID 1 on this machine, which is interesting. And we have 3 network connections. What are our destination ports? 135 and 61249. Interesting. And who's doing it? Service host. Cool. Let's look at those PowerShell event logs. What do you got for me? Nothing. Let's take a look at all hosts. 51 events. This is so much worse. All right, looks like James is really messed up here. We have this base 64 encoded. Oh my. You know what? Let's see if we can pull that from event ID 1 and just look for PowerShell.exe. 1 event. Hey, there's that base 64 that I want so badly. I'll take it. CyberChef. From base 64. And you have 2 ways to get rid of these dots. The first easy one is remove null bytes, right? And then the other one is to format it as UTF-16. All right, let's take a look at this. I'm going to pull this out of here and put it in Vim. All right, looks... We've got some more base 64 here. It's not super obfuscated, though. Okay. ASCII get bytes. And then there's a whole bunch of bytes in there. Add cookie. Download data. Then invoke expression. So, a couple things to note. First of all, they're disabling script block logging, which sucks. Then they're downloading some stuff here from where? Ten, 10, 10, 5. Okay. What command was used to add a backdoor user from a remote computer? An encoded PowerShell script from the affected host initiated a web request. What is the full URL? I guess we don't have any of that yet. We're still looking. Okay, so this is the kickoff. Oh, I pulled too much is the problem. Or part of the problem. What? That's what I want. Okay. It looks like it's weirdly... Oh, okay, the parent command line was this base 64 encoding, and then comes all of this. Okay, so the first thing was disable script block logging. Yeah, so that was the first thing that it did. And then the next thing that it did was what we saw here, right? And then, okay, so we have gets from base 64 string news.php. .10.10.10.5 / news.php, but that's plainly not what was there. So the next thing we need to do is look for file rights. So this was process ID what? Process ID 9428. We're going to add that to the search. And then see what else it did. Right? Because theoretically... Okay, we have... we have some network connections. We have some registry key changes. We have some DNS queries. Alright, so let's look at the network connections and see what you're all about. 172.18.39.6. From WMI. What about our DNS queries? Those are always fun. Did we get the right? Did we get the right? Why is this crashing on me? Did we get the right... Let's see if I can finish this sentence. Process ID. Okay, we have a single PowerShell.exe event here. Coming off of cyberT / James. Running as system, which is really interesting. The parent process ID was 9564. Which I want to go look for now. We'll duplicate this and do it there. Thank you so much for the case sensitivity. We have 11 events here. Process access, which is interesting. Network connections. Okay, so there's the 10.10.10.5. There's the network connection that we saw, right? The HTTP. Registry stuff. Registering that occurring. Ooh. Named pipe. Then ID 18. Pretty weird. Pipe connected. Arms type pipe. All right. All right. Create key. Again, so all this stuff is just what happens when you make network connections. Not too concerned about this. Is this all we have? Yeah. Okay. So this network connection is interesting. $12.10. Process access is kind of crazy. So the source was PowerShell, and it went after WMI, which is unsurprising. So we have WMI being used, I presume, for our lateral movement, right? And the host name was James Brown, and the user was system. But what we don't know is what kind of token, like whether there was any sort of token usage happening. All right. Now here is, was this the backdoor? Our WMIC node workstation 6 process call create net user add Alberto PAW word 1. Possibly. Yes. Right. How many times was the login attempt from the backdoor user observed during the investigation? Attempt. Notice not success. Which means we're going to look for 4625, which is logon failures. None. Fun. Okay. Sorry, that was my bad. Event ID. Still none. All right, how many successful logins do we have? We have 19. But the question is... target username. Still just the 4. I haven't seen this thing happen once. Okay. Love those trick questions. What is the name of the infected host on which the suspicious PowerShell commands were run? Yeah. So this is our friend here. No, it's not server. So this is the trick with Windows event logs. Some of them come from the endpoint, some of them come from the domain controller. But when it's stuff like this, it's very often that it's like your host name is where the reporting from the logs is coming from, not the actual source. So you gotta be aware of that. I'm looking for like computer name here, and I'm not seeing it. That's the extracted host, but it's not, that's not right. All right, let's look for everything that James did, since plainly... compromised. Also be aware you've got to escape your backslashes here. The host name is James Brown. And it's messed up that it was that hard to find that. PowerShell logging is enabled. How many events were logged for the malicious PowerShell execution? How many events? PowerShell logging. Event ID equals 4103. Yeah, I'm going to go with yes for this. So 51. No. We may be getting data from elsewhere. So account name is still James. Host name is still James Brown. It's 51. Unless... Oh, no. The channel has to be... Wait, no, I'm in the wrong thing. 4103. Yeah, PowerShell operational. All of that is coming through. Let's do that for our filter and get rid of the event ID. Still 51 events. I don't know what their problem is. So what's cool about PowerShell is, or the PowerShell script block logging, is that it breaks things down because it has a maximum length, and very often the executed script is going to be longer than its maximum length. So you get a bunch more events from PowerShell logging than you do like actual commands. And you can kind of see how these go through. Each payload is slightly different, right? I don't know why it doesn't like 51. It's the answer. Encoded PowerShell script should be just the 4103s. Well, it was the same number. Because look, we have the... It was the same number. Check my time frame? Fair enough. Good idea. Always important to zoom out. I didn't even realize I was zoomed in for anything. $79. That's better. An encoded PowerShell script from the affected host initiated a web request. What is the full URL? Okay, so we have... Let's do... Table, time, and payload. Do I have payload? Yeah. Capital P. So we have this login process.php, news.php. This, what does this look like to everybody? What C2 framework? Empire is correct. This is PowerShell Empire. These are the giveaway. Other than the fact that it's all PowerShell, these URLs are the giveaway. These are defaults in Empire. Interesting. That what we don't have is the network connection here. But login process.php. Object parameter binding, no. System. All right. See if there's something outside of payload that gives us some more information. Oh, come on. Get out of the table. Or no, we're fine. We just got to go to events. Yeah, I mean, this was everything that we were looking at before. This whole thing. Which I don't imagine is any different from what we had. Nope, it's not. Right, /news.php. Are cyber criminals actually using Empire in the real world? Not so much anymore. What is... All right, I'll look at the hint for this one. Defang the URL CyberShelf can... Oh, they want us to defang it. What in the world? Fine. So imagine, examine the logs and identify the user that the adversary was trying to impersonate. I am absolutely stunned at this one. If it's not system. Like, for real, what are we doing here? So the user account was deleted in this case. All right, let's do this in a reverse order. Yeah, you can defang with CyberChef. They're all really into that for this path. All right, so the first thing that happened was this WMI invocation, right? And then there's your WMI invocation. Then Same deal. Net user add, right? Okay. I'm still looking to see wherever there's some sort of impersonation happening here. This is all just the net user ads. Okay, here's some registry stuff setting to Alberto default. Token elevation. 4688 new process was created. Yeah, net user. Sure. All of this just from creating the user. I don't see anything that's particularly... interesting. And then the user account was deleted. Identify the adversary was trying to impersonate. Oh my god, it was literally just put in Alberto without a 1. Which, by the way, did not... We had no reason to believe that was there. There were no users with that. I mean, it's in here, but the question is... That's so dumb. Okay. Well, whatever. I mean, that's what they were trying to impersonate. All right, I think that's more than enough work for today. So, some good blue team work. We'll go a little bit more on the offensive direction next week. See what we're up to. But for now, this was good hanging out with everybody. I hope y'all learned something. I know that I did, as always. And hopefully you got a little bit more familiar with Splunk. So we're going to call it a day here. But if you're interested, the hack list has a whole bunch of other streamers that are doing InfoSec work. And we're going to raid one of them right now, my friend GoPro Slowyo. Sure, he's up to something really interesting. Don't forget, of course, also that responsible red teaming is available from the Taggart Institute, and we have 4 other courses that are available right now, and soon to be 5. So check us out at taggartinstitute.org. But until next time, friends, please be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and happy hacking. We'll see you next time.